My name is Collette Gabriel. I'm the general manager of Kaslow Camera Chicago, and this here is...
I'm Sally Spaderna. I'm the rentals manager of Kerner Camera in Portland, Oregon.
And I'm Bianca Halpern. I'm the founder of Bikini. We're a camera rental house in Culver City.
So we'll start with you, Bianca. If you just want to give a kind of quick bio background of, where you started and how you ended up where you are.
So I started as a cinematographer, freelancer. I went to grad school here in the US, then I moved back to Brazil where I was working as a cinematographer. And while I was there, I saw a lot of as a woman cinematographer, I didn't feel like I had the same chances as my male cinematographers friends had, access to better lenses. They were always shooting with better lenses than me. And then a few years after, I had the opportunity to open a business, and I ended up opening Bikini here in LA, not here. So I became now a business owner, and I work closely with my clients, and my goal is to bring amazing gear to everyone.
Yeah, and something pretty incredible about Bikini is that you offer childcare.
Yes.
Which nobody else has. So just more opportunities for women to be able to, and men, to be able to prep and have that part of their life taken care of too.
Yeah, when I became a mom and I had my first prep when my son was 3 months old, I went to the camera house and I got there and, things were delayed, and then I had a nanny at that point, but then it was 6 o'clock, nanny had to go, I was still there, we still had 2 hours to go through everything, and that's when it clicked. I was like, how are parents doing this, So we decided to have a kids' room in our facility, so the camera assistant, the DP, can bring their kid, at least during the prep. You have to be there, while you're there, you can bring your kid. But yeah, I think, so I ended up doing a rental house that I needed when I was a cinematographer, and there was nothing like it around.
Sally, you want to give us a little bio?
Sure, I'll try to make it little. Brevity is not my strong point, so feel free to ask me to move it along at any point. I went to NYU for theater. I was a theater major, and then along with some other close friends while I was there, decided to get a second degree because we realized that that was probably a good idea. And I got another degree in broadcast journalism. And NYU is great at helping you get internships and jobs straight out the door, and I kind of really got pushed into that field quite easily, working at various television stations, and started working as a producer in documentary news production, and writing for the news, and working at major. It was a big market. I lived in New York City for 12 years, writing and producing for documentary style news, and then eventually wanted to move back to my hometown of Portland, Oregon, which I did, and quickly discovered that it was very difficult to get a job as a producer in television in Portland, Oregon, compared to the large market of New York City. And I was struggling to find any kind of job in media production. People wanted you to be able to shoot, edit, produce, write with all your own equipment, that type of media that I was used to doing. I had a friend that I went to high school with that worked in the film industry and asked if I wanted to PA on a film set. I'd never worked on a film set. It sounded fun. I was eager to do anything that was even remotely connected to my job field, so I, of course, took that. And then I started working as a camera assistant. Second AC, I realized that the more I could be right next to the camera, the more I could learn about how a film set worked and The goal was eventually to get back into the world of production, but this time in film production in Portland, Oregon. I had some health issues, which required me to have health insurance. So I then my next goal was to get a full-time job with benefits, which was an equal challenge in Portland, Oregon. And I gave myself 9 months after, taking a lot of freelance jobs, going back and forth between working as a camera assistant and producing, camera assistant producing. And they were trying to get me to come work at this rental house because they wanted someone that had both of those skills to sort of take over some of the duties of the owner there. And that didn't sound good to me. A rental house? I knew nothing about that. I said no, but I knew that that was an option. 9 months later, I still hadn't gotten that dream job in the production company that I was looking for with my benefits package and everything. They did offer benefits at the rental house. So with my tail between my legs, I went to this rental house, Kerner Camera Systems, and started working there part-time. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Michael Kerner was a fantastic boss, a very generous employer, and long story short, I started off as a camera tech. I did not do the best job as a camera tech. It was not really my forte, but they were trying to groom me. I did have to have that experience working with the cameras, building the cameras, prepping the cameras before I could step into that role as a rental manager. And eventually that did come to fruition, and here I am. It's almost 11 years, 10 or 11 years, and I love it. I couldn't be happier.
That's great. A little bit about me. So I studied cinematography in film school in Chicago, and when I graduated, there was no industry left in Chicago. So I went to LA and interned for a DP right out of school, and as a camera intern. So I got to learn everything on set, which of course you learn a lot more on set than you do in college. I loved my college experience, but you learn so much more being out there. So I worked with that crew, and they liked me, and I think I proved myself. So then they hired me as a camera PA on a few projects, and then they were going on to do a movie where they weren't given a budget for a camera PA, so they said, you should go work at a rental house. And we were mostly working out of Panavision, so they sent me over to Panavision Woodland Hills, their headquarters, and I had to beg for a job because they're like, you're already out in the field. What are you doing? You're gonna come back here and you're gonna leave right away. So I promised I would stay there for a year, and I stayed a year and a half. And I worked in shipping and receiving, just the entry of working at a rental house. But I made the most of it. And I think that's really kind of the backbone of the rental house. It's where all the gear comes and goes through those people's hands, and it's kind of like on set, well, I was a film loader. So a loader nowadays, you're dealing with very expensive material that if something goes wrong, that could be hundreds of thousands of dollars lost right there, yet that's the lowest paid person on set. So I don't know. So the same thing at a rental house, it's kind of the entry level position, but it's a great training ground. You learn so much because your hands are touching all the gear, so you figure out what goes with what and where things go and what they're called and all of that. So it is a really good base for learning everything with camera gear, and I'm sure this applies to other rental houses too, with lighting and grip gear and whatever. So anyway, I did that, and I was able to meet a lot more people in the industry as well, make those contacts, and then the original crew I started with was able to bring me out on a job as a film loader and get my days to join Local 600. So I did that and then continued to work on set with them and did various other projects as second AC mostly. But then decided that I did not want to live in LA anymore. So even though I was doing really well, my husband and I say we chose lifestyle over career and gave it all up, left LA, moved back to Chicago in 2008 during the financial crisis, and we had no idea what we were going to do. And also, I guess I was 27 at the time. My body was already starting to fall apart from working, 12, 15 hours a day, standing on concrete. I developed tendonitis in my Achilles and just was sort of thinking maybe on-set life is not the plan for me for the rest of my life. So I knew I didn't want to go on set. So even though when I got to Chicago, I did make a few connections to go down that path if I wanted to, I really didn't want to do that. So spent a few years trying to figure out what to do, worked for a school photography company as their operations manager, and then Robert Kaslow, who owns Kaslow Camera, and at that time there was just our LA office. They were opening up a Chicago branch because there was a new movie studio, Cinespace Studios, that was opening up there, which is now the largest, I think they claim the largest rental or movie studio outside of LA. In the U.S., so it's a big space now and a production hub. So they wanted to create a production hub there, so have rental houses and casting agents and everything on set on the lot there. So I randomly got connected with Robert, and he liked me enough to hire me to steer his ship in Chicago and grow it. So now it's been almost 11 years of doing that, and doing these things now too. So I also helped put on a trade show in Chicago called Filmscape, and we're a little engine that could. I think Harry helps us a lot with PERG, just trying to make sure that we're bringing resources to the Midwest, bringing vendors there, manufacturers there, so people can learn about the new gear, and then also we tap into all of the knowledge that they bring with them to host free classes for everybody who can come. So just trying to continue to build up the crew base there. So. And speaking of those type of events, I know Kerner Camera is famous for hosting a lens summit every year. So even though Kerner is in a smaller market in Portland and in Seattle, they've really created this space that has become a destination that people travel all around for. So if you could speak to that, Sally.
We do. And I think, and I know Bikini also hosts a lot of events. I think that's become a new thing in the rental industry, like just being a real outreach to the community as far as providing training and providing opportunities for connection, and it's also a marketing tool for your company. And there's a lot of planning that goes into it. You really reach out to everyone. You establish these connections with your vendors that I don't think you actually really would have otherwise. And it really makes you a lot more familiar with the gear, with everything that's coming out, and it helps you. I know it's helped me in my career, the Lens Summit, as far as making these connections, building these connections, learning the gear, learning the industry, and here I am talking about it. It's funny that you talk about missing being on set. I still miss being on set. I miss the connections that I had with the people that are on set. But having these events like the Lens Summit, it brings those people back in. Get to see the people other than these times that they're just prepping at your camera house. You're creating events that these friendships and these opportunities that, especially in a smaller market like Portland, I only get to see these people when I come here or I come to Cine Gear. But there's another event where I get to see other people. Just like being on set, where I only get to see people when they come in and prep. I remember the first time that I really kind of made peace with that when a TV show returned all their gear covered in mud and it was pouring rain out and we were all drinking our lattes warm and cozy and got to leave at 5:30.
Those are the perks.
Yeah, there are definitely some perks.
We'll talk a little bit more about, you're talking about these connections, these relationships with vendors. So like, a lens manufacturer like Zeiss or something, what does that entail?
Well, you really have to stay on top of what the hot new items are and what your market wants. And coming to trade shows like this or having your own trade shows, you have to know what you want, what you need to purchase to have in your rental house, because there's so many things that come out all the time, and there's so many options, and they're so expensive, and they become outdated so quickly, and you have to follow the market trends, and you have to be able to provide for your market. So that's a big component to a career in rentals. The Lens Summit is something that I don't know if any of you know what the Lens Summit is. It's a trade show that's just for glass. It's just for lenses. And we have it every year in Portland, Oregon. Hopefully, Meg here is from our Seattle facility. We have a facility in Portland and one in Seattle. Hopefully we will have it one day in our Seattle facility as well. This year it's going to be in London. We're partnering with CVP in London, and they're going to be co-hosting the Lens Summit in London, just because during COVID we couldn't have a physical Lens Summit, so we had a virtual Lens Summit which went all year long, and every week we had we hosted one particular vendor, and it was a Zoom meeting, and that brought like massive exposure worldwide. And so now we have this worldwide audience that can't all come to Portland, so we're having a Lens Summit in London to broaden the exposure and make it a little easier for people that are coming from Poland or Eastern Europe, other places further away that's a little bit more difficult to come to Portland. Yeah, it's May 20th and 21st. Yeah.
Thanks, got cards.
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing that I was thinking about the relationship with the vendor, it's like when the people that are on set, they're so busy that they don't have time to even know, right? So we have to keep up on what's new and pass on this information, right? And sometimes I don't even think about it. I'm like, oh, everyone knows. But then there's like this big debate. I'm like, oh, there's this lens. And they're like, what do you mean? This lens, I didn't even know it existed, And I think comparing to when I was a freelancer, it was very hard to keep up. And I feel like now, even that I'm not on set, but because we have to get exposed to everything that is new, I know more about things. And it's our responsibility to educate everyone that is on set. Oh, this thing came out. Some people that are on set, they have time to come to these things, but not a lot, right? Like I think the majority of people that I saw here are either vendors or rental houses. Yes, there is some crew, but as everyone knows, when you're on set, life on set, you don't have a lot of days off to come to these places.
Yeah, and another part of the relationship is, and it was really exciting to me when I first sort of made the connections, was that these vendors listen to us and listen to DPs and ACs often through us, because we're kind of the liaison between that. So just like I have the ear of Ari, I have some, good friends there now that I know I can talk to about whatever, and bring up, hey, this AC was talking about how this was annoying with, this bracket you made. And then they actually listen, and if enough people kind of want the same thing, you'll see the next version of it will show that they paid attention to what people want. So it's really cool to have that too. And then also, a lot of people will just come in and test gear out, and then that's how we get more feedback too that we can pass on to vendors. So it's pretty cool. At first, I was actually talking to someone at ARI yesterday, and he was talking about how someone came up and I was very intimidated about talking to them. Like, why are you intimidated? We're right here, and we're friendly people, but they're a behemoth company, So especially like if you're in film school or you're just starting out, like why would they listen to me? But they want to know, and they're just, all of these, they might be bigger companies, but they're niche markets, so they want to hear from the people who use their gear.
Yeah, and the vendors will also let us try something out. They'll ship it to us and let us test it out for, sometimes quite a while, which they won't let just anyone do. And I was just telling a story about we had an operator come in and help us shoot our little Christmas video, and I had asked him, and I knew he didn't drink alcohol, and he didn't really drink coffee, and I was trying to figure out like a nice little gift to give him as a thank you. And so I just asked him, I said, what can I give you, or what can we give you as a thank you? And he said, actually, I really want to test out this new gimbal rig, but I can't. They'll only lend it to a vendor. Is there any way you could get it up here? And so I had it up in Portland the next week, and he got a bunch of other like Steadicam operators together, and we just had a little like day at Kerner where everyone got to try stuff out, and it it was great. That's how things work with the relationships with the rental house and with the vendors.
Yes. Well, we're definitely different levels. I mean, I would consider Kaslow one of the big rental houses. We have offices in Canada, so I'm familiar with the whites thing. Yeah. And we just acquired Camera, so we're actually now the largest camera rental house in Canada. So we're not exactly a small player anymore. But to your question, we don't want the prices to be rock bottom, and certainly deal with that, and just make decisions on how important it is for us to do the job. I mean, there are some times where it's a DP who is just, absolutely must work with us, and there's nothing else that, they want to do. And sometimes they have enough fight to allow that to happen, even if we aren't the lowest bidder. So sometimes that happens, but sometimes it doesn't. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Service, I mean, try to just make sure that people understand the quality that they get. We've had clients in the past that have gone somewhere else thinking that they could save a buck, and come back to us because they understood the value of that. I mean, that doesn't always happen, especially there are, entities that are out to just make sure everybody is paying the lowest price possible. Budgets are smaller and smaller all the time. So it's a tough fight, but that's what we try to show people, is that, the service means something too, and you're not just grabbing gear off a shelf and going. So word of mouth helps too with people who have experience, with different sides, I think. Then they value those relationships. So that's a big part of what we all do at every level, is building strong relationships so people then have our backs, because none of us want to do things, super cheap.
Yeah, I think they value the experience that they have at the rental house. Like, I would say, between the three of us, Kaslow is the major player. Kerner is in Portland, and they kind of you own the market there. So competition is different, right? But we are way smaller. I have 10 employees. Kaslow has 130, 200 now. Okay. So major. But when I buy new lenses, I call my friends at Kaslow, and I'm like, hey, how are you pricing this lens? Because I also want to be able to provide them if they need to sub-rent from me, because also we all rent to each other. So you want to try and level the same prices. Of course, not everything is the same price, but at least lenses, I always call my coon. Okay, Mike, what are you pricing this lens? Let's just do the same price. And often is discounted. I do not remember a job that there was no discount, but I don't think that's up to us. I think that's what we deal with in the industry. And it's on a case-to-case basis. And, I've talked to other rental houses too, that when they know, sometimes they get a bid that they want you to bid on, but they know like, oh, this is a Kaslow DP. And this happened before between Bikini and Kaslow, where it was a Kaslow DP, and I'm like, that's so weird, like, why are they emailing me? I know that it's a Kaslow DP. So I got in touch and was like, look, like, if this is happening, because sometimes the producer will send them a quote, the Kaslow quote to us, and want us to try to go lower, and then we go lower, then they send it back to Collette, and they're like, well, Bikini is doing this. So that's what really drives down the market. So I think the relationship between us is very important to understand and be able to navigate that. And I think it depends if it's busy, if it's not. When it's not busy, I feel like everyone's just trying to get anything they can. When it's not busy, people throw other people's jobs. I've got a call from Kaslow before, like, hey, like, I have a client, I cannot take this, we're completely booked. Can you take care of this client? So we work a lot together in the end, most of us.
That's how we initially first were connected, was because I was talking to a client and like, oh, we couldn't do it. And like, yeah, here, talk to Bianca. And at the time, her office was right next door to my office in Culver City. Yeah. So it was working together a lot. Yeah. But we, like you said, if we know, someone has a strong relationship, the DP has a strong relationship with the other rental house, then we try to, can't collude, so we don't want to, but no, we're not going to just undercut the bid just because, when we know that everybody wants to go somewhere else. So we all kind of, that's why it's important for, us to all be on the same side and have good relationships, and like within your community too. Like, I'm in Chicago, and everybody in the film community there it's a small family community, and we all, yes, I'm going to compete against my competitors, but in the end, we're all friends, and we want to make sure that the industry as a whole grows and people trust us and want to come and film their stuff. In Chicago, I'm sure the same thing in Portland, and even in a large market like LA, there's still a lot of community out there.
Yeah, the community. Even there's, I don't know if you're familiar with Slack channel. Slack, it's the communication. So there's a Slack channel just for the LA camera houses, and we all exchange information. Also, Perg now created a new channel, whole US, where all the rental houses are there. So when you don't have something, you can post there. And then they're like, oh, I have that, I'll ship that to you. So it's really a big community. I've met so many great people that are working other rental houses, learned so much, you exchange information. Oh, this is working, this is not working. Oh, I had this issue. Oh, how did you, technical information as well between ourselves. And that's very valid.
It's a valid question. Yeah. And it's the discounts in the larger markets took a little longer to reach us in the smaller markets, and when they did, we were a little more reluctant to adapt to them. But it's an unfortunate culture that exists in the film industry, that sort of we're led to believe that we have to just scrape by as artists and filmmakers, and that's evidenced in these strikes that are about to take place, it's across the board, it's the rental houses, it's people's, the disparity in hiring, gender disparities, It's you know, there's a lot of problems in the film industry, and where they began, who's to say? But we're all in this together. That is the main thing. We are all in this together. We're not against each other. We're all like PERG. We're all PERG members. We're all part of the rental community. So we are all in this together. And as far as renting in the Pacific Northwest, when we're dealing with people from larger markets, we have to explain that we can't just go like on Slack. We are on Slack in Portland, so we can see how it works. People just say, "Look, oh, hey, I need this," and okay, I'll just drive over and get it. Yeah. If we need something, we need to pay like $1,000 to ship it up to Portland. So that's built into our rental prices.
But
so
then maybe we'll discount extra, because of our relationship. We know you're gonna have to have your cost for shipping.
Right.
There's that too.
It can be a case-by-case thing. We did something with Panavision once where they provided the lenses and helped us change the mounts on our cameras because it was a Panavision DP. It's rare, but
your boss, Michael, he called me the other day. He's like, "Oh, I have all these lenses, the specific type, the Canon." He's like, "I have 4. Like, they're not really renting. I'm gonna send you one. Try to rent over there." So stuff like this, I think, happens.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure about purchasing.
Yeah, I think especially I know we've worked with some rental houses in smaller markets like Minneapolis, who they might have some gear that just is kind of sitting on the shelf, but we've rented it a couple times, and they're like, "Hey, why don't you keep it down there for a little bit and see if it'll rent more?" Because they'll make more money off of it versus it sitting up there where there isn't as much work. So to an extent, to your point, yeah.
And I think what's interesting about the 3 of us, that I think we've all been able to change a little bit in the rental house industry, is the female presence. I remember when I was in film school, walking into rental houses, and it was like, okay, like I'm the only girl here, and then you don't have the courage to ask questions, or because people are going to think you're dumb or you don't know, and I know for sure that at our 3 places of work, we encourage questions, we encourage all genders, and I think we all make our spaces be very welcoming. And I think that's been a very big change in the industry. I'm sure, Collette, you have been a very important part of that in Chicago. The Kerner team is amazing and super inclusive, and we are as well. Even from people that work there, I have a couple of non-binary employees, and it's very interesting because we wanted to open the doors for them, but I never realized that would actually be eye-open. Like the clients who are also non-binary, they feel comfortable being there because maybe in other places they feel like they're going to be judged. Or moms that brought their kids and they're breastfeeding on the prep A, whereas maybe if they were in a place that there were no moms, they wouldn't feel as comfortable. So I think it's very important that we are all in these careers in rental, because I'm pretty sure before there were not that many women.
No, not at all. And obviously diversity is a huge topic right now of a lot of different entities pushing to diversify the film industry. And it's not just on set, it's on this side too. It's sort of every aspect, and everybody on set is going through our space. So like you said, like clients then feeling welcome or at home, like they see the same people on our side too is really encouraging. Bianca, you're the one that started your own business, so you probably handle this one.
I guess try to differentiate yourself, My best friend Gillian, she helped me with the branding part of things, and one day I called her, I was like, I'm thinking of opening a rental house. Can you help me with the branding? And then she's like, yeah, sure, send me some websites of the other houses in LA, and then first thing she said, she's like, well, and she's in fashion. She's like, well, it's going to be kind of easy to differentiate the website, and I feel like now a lot of other rental houses have modernize their websites, but just do something different that is also true to you, right? And I mean, for us, our big differential is offering the childcare. And I think in the beginning, we were also just women working there. Now we are operated by women and men, but we are women-owned, and in the end, it trickles down to there's the mom effect. I'm a mom, so I'm like trying to be a mom every day to everyone that works there or that is a client. So you feel that. So I think just really bringing your truth and wanting also, what would you like to, if you were renting, what experience you would like to have, Is it like a can of Coke when you go, is it a bottle of water? Is it flowers, plants, coffee?
Yeah, I would have to agree there. Like at Kerner, I can't really speak to the Seattle facility, but they're also very unique, very, you've got what, Olivia, is that her name? you can find out about Olivia on Instagram, but we, at Kerner in Portland, it was a giant facility warehouse, but the design element was key when we had it built out. So it's all wood, like reclaimed wood paneling. There's a giant cutout of the state of Oregon in some of that reclaimed wood. We have 2 turntables and an extensive collection of vinyl. And people can just play records all day long, bring in their own records, pick out from the record collection, and and some people may disagree with this, but we have dogs at work, so it's a very chill. There's like big Oriental rugs and couches, and it's just a very it's been compared to the Apple store of rental houses. We're installing hanging plants that can come down, up and down from pulleys, and got skylights, and it's just a really nice environment to you want to hang out in. So you can take that into consideration. But we don't do gimbals, and we do partner with another company in town that only does gimbal. And they, had approached us about that. So whenever we have a client that needs a gimbal, we made the decision early on not to do that because of everything that was, involved and early on in trying to balance out a gimbal and what in the early days. Now it's pretty simple, but they started up, and now they have like everything. They've got drones. They've got blackguard. They've got a lot of stuff. So we refer them if you need a gimbal. And
yeah, and I think I'm sure Kaslow probably doesn't have gimbals as well. Yeah, I think the higher end rental houses don't carry that gimbals because most of the clients that are doing movement are doing Steadicam. So I think that's a great opportunity for you. It's maybe partner up with a few rental houses in the city that you are. And that would be great, because sometimes when we rent gimbals from another house and they're not just gimbals, then there's always something missing because it's not their forte. So if you become amazing in just renting gimbals, you might be the gimbal guy, that we all will call for when our clients need. Yes, sounds good.
Yeah, and then just having, solid service to maintain your gear and make it the best that there is out there is crucial.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes, Harry. Yeah, and yes.
Did everyone hear that question?
Oh, yeah. Yes, like I said, Kaslow's a large company, but my office is 9 people, so, everybody wears many hats. And when it started, it was me, so I learned to do all kinds of stuff. But people come in, straight from film school and really don't have a lot, and I usually start them in shipping because, like I said, you learn so much about the gear there. And then, some people are more interested in the tech and want to learn how to take it apart and everything. So you have service techs. And then that even, you can never stop learning with that. You know, like you said, there's gear just always coming out, so there's so much more to keep learning and getting better and better at. And a lot of people, I guess the most romantic position on the tech side is being a lens tech. People are really interested in optics. It's very cool. And, you know, we have technicians who have been doing it for decades and are still learning. So it's great because you can do that and continue to evolve and continue to learn. So even though you're kind of staying in one position, you're able to grow more and more. And then the prep techs who are working directly with the ACs to get them the gear and make sure it's all working right and grab them exactly, you know, the exact cable they need and bracket they need and stuff. And I think that's really good because or interesting for people doing that is because you're really collaborating. So you're not on set, but you're kind of doing a lot of those things that you are doing on set. So a lot of times the prep tech, then that's what leads them out onto set, of doing those same jobs as an AC. But then you have the other side of, you know, rental or marketing agents, depending on which company, same thing, different titles, working directly with the producers on budgets and gear lists and working with the DPs on what they want. And, you know, we're not here to tell a DP what lenses to use or what, you know, anything to use, but we're resources to tell them what's out there and what new things, and, you know, as we get to know them, and, you know, other rental agents too, as they get to know the clients, can offer up suggestions of things that they might be interested in looking at, or, you know, trying to solve a different problem. So, so you're working, I feel like every aspect of the rental house, you have some sort of tech knowledge, but I know, you know, there's certain people I work with that will just hands down say, like, yeah, I'm not techie at all, and I'm going to pass you on to get your questions answered by someone else. So yeah, there's a wide range of options at a rental house.
Yeah, as a comparison, you have 200 people. We have 5 in our Portland office, and in Seattle 7 right now, 6. Yeah, we lost an employee and have not replaced them yet. There's very little turnover, but it's really, you know, the people have to really have a vested interest and love for what they are wanting to do. Like our lens techs, like Carrie, that she lives and breathes lenses, that she loves doing that. It's like she's like an engineer mind, and if you put me in that role, probably be, no, it just wouldn't work out. It would be like forcing me to try and learn it, and it just would not be. I wouldn't be like loving it. I would do it, but that's just an example. We hired somebody who works in our Seattle facility, and there, like I said, very little turnover, and I'm not sure that we were even really looking to hire someone at the time, but he came in and told Michael Kerner, "Cameras are my life. You're hired." That was LJ. And those are the people that will really grow your company and be the foundation for your company. And then there are training opportunities that are out there. Like at the Lens Summit, we provide lens tech training for. These are people that are already lens techs at companies, and then Filmscape does with Perg a lens tech training that they just did this past February. That was extremely successful, and it was basically from entry level to advanced, and then ARI has some really great advanced training. There's training out there that you can send your employees to, and you just have to keep abreast of what's going on.
And then there's also the intern position, that I think a lot of rental houses have different internship programs. We do by school credit, so you got to be a student. But you go through every department, starting in shipping and receiving. I never thought about, it's interesting. It's like the lowest paid job, but it is like, if this person misses something, right, and you're like, oh, L&D, and you lost money or you made the production lose money. Interesting. But the intern normally goes, in all the departments. And I was just telling them that just recently our intern, Alejandra, she wrote a letter of what she learned, and she said that she came in wanting to learn the gear, but actually at the end, besides learning the gear, what she also learned is that she would be happy working at a rental house. So, I think people don't expect that they're gonna like it, just like Sally. Also happened to our QC tech, like when he started, he was an intern who got hired and wanted to be there for a bit and wanted to be an AC. One day even we talked, because he's like, I really want to be an AC, I kind of want to move into more prep tech so I can learn that. And then one day he had to fix something, and I was like, why don't you talk to the client about this? And he's like, he's like, QC wants to do his, I was like, what happened to wanting to be on set? And he's like, yeah, I changed my mind. I like my QC world, testing monitors, batteries, Teradecks. So I think a lot of us find another version of ourselves, including myself. I thought I was gonna keep being a cinematographer and being a business owner. I still shoot often, but rarely, but I find myself very happy on my day-to-day business, and sometimes having time to come home and cook and go to the gym. Things that when I was a freelancer was definitely not happening. So I think there are many areas that one can explore, and I think a lot of us get surprised of how much we enjoy working at rental houses.
Yeah, I thought like rental house, the term rental, I think, was what got me. It was like Blockbuster, like Enterprise, and it sort of like wiped this. Yeah, I was like, no, I was like, I was either going to be a producer or a camera assistant, and that wiped that slate clean. But I'm a producer and a camera assistant in my job. That's what I am. Every day, I produce and I work with cameras, and I learn so much more about cameras than I ever thought I would, and I have the opportunity to travel. I have the opportunity to go to set. I have the opportunity to make all of these interpersonal relationships. I can write. I can. There's just so much more to this job than I ever thought there was. I'll produce events, and here I am. Also speaking about it now too, that it's been a very rewarding career, much more than I ever imagined.
We don't have a specific program, and it's kind of each office kind of runs with it, and it's more just about relationships. Like this past week, some ACs that we work with a bunch one AC wanted to shoot a short, and got a few other people together, and they got a script together and everything. So it was just like, yes, we will help you out, and what's your budget? And those type of projects, I don't think anybody feels like we're undercutting anybody. It's more just, we have the gear available right now, and they just need to be flexible with it. Like, you can't have that one set of crazy, vintage anamorphics that, everybody wants, unless it's a one-day shoot and they're just sitting there. They just came off a job. It's like, hey, yeah, here's your golden opportunity to do that. So we don't have like a specific program. I know other companies do. Like in Chicago, there's Camera Ambassador, which is around the corner from us, and they kind of do things like that, like little packages that are meant specifically for that kind of stuff. But we're a little more free form about it, and it's kind of come to us and pitch your idea, and again, that goes back to the relationships of just building the relationships, and like, yeah, we trust you as an AC, you're doing, you know your stuff, or even schools, people are shooting their thesis project or something, and there's only so much gear that the school has available, so we'll offer like, hey, just get as much gear as you can from your school, and then if you need a lens from us and maybe a monitor or something, then yeah, we'll help you out with that if you just have insurance for it. So it's a case-by-case basis, but as much as we can, we know that you got to start somewhere, and if you're not given the opportunities, then who knows, you're not gonna be there to so eventually they'll hopefully bring their big projects to us when they're making big $100 million movies.
Come in and ask in person or put together a good pitch is what, I always say. Like, especially if we don't know you, it always helps if you actually come in and introduce yourself and then tell us why this piece of art is so important to you, and make it a personal thing, between the rental house and you, instead of just a very vague and unpersonal ask. I know, and we're not a huge college town. We don't have I know in New York, like you said, the some of the rental houses have, and Talamus I think also had a thesis thing built into their rental policy, but we don't have that at Kerner. But it's a case by case, but it always helps to come in person, at least for us, to come in and pitch your project.
Yeah, I think same thing. We like getting phone calls. Sometimes there's we did a youth Latino cinema project last year that they had a symbolic fee, but if you have the gear available, it's not that you're undercutting, and they know that this was just for this time. And yeah, you hope that they will come back with a real paying job.
We'll also do certificates, do those for events where they're doing a silent auction or a raffle or something like that to just help promote the event. And then people can come in and then use that for a weekend project or something along those lines.
Film festivals,
Yeah.
winner. I know we work with Holly Shorts. I think Kaslow is doing a $10,000 camera package for Women in Media's Altitude Awards that's coming up. So that's really cool. Yeah, it's very flexible, and for me in the first year was also not about making money. Honestly, it was just to put myself out there. That's maybe something to consider for you, is making your clients and trusting that these clients, they might have $100 today, but they might have 500 in their next project. So I think in the beginning is really a lot about establishing yourself and trying to make the most of it.
Get insurance. And if you're having trouble, get it early, make sure it's done correctly, and work with your rental agent and your insurance person to make sure the insurance policy is done correctly.
So many people wait till the last minute, and we're like, you're prepping the camera right now, and it cannot leave the door unless your insurance is good. So
We had to hold packages until the next morning.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Someone had a question? Oh, no, it was just a mumbo. Harry. Well, we hold events, sometimes that are open events that we post on Instagram. That's also how sometimes we put job posts. So sometimes we do events that are open. So that's your first place to come in. And we have actually hired someone that came into one of these events and did a making of the event, and we're like, oh, that's really cool, and we needed someone. He was looking for a job, and they got the job. So I think anytime that they're open events, maybe at trade shows, but it's kind of hard to find, and normally rental houses are not at the trade show as a booth, they're walking around. I think for Bikini would be mostly by coming to our open events.
Yeah, definitely. Open events, I would say. It is true. Rental houses can be intimidating. A lot of times you are met by, a desk person at the front, and why are you here? What, do you have an appointment? Or in the case of like in Kerner, Portland, we don't even have any sort of signage out front. People don't even know, like where am I? How do I get in here? But if there's an open event that is open to anyone, which we try to have as often as possible, I wish we could do that more. I wish we had the staff and the ability to. We just had one in Seattle on what was that, last weekend? You had the Steadicam event. So they had one on a Saturday, which brought in a lot of people because it was actually open on a Saturday. I think that's a good opportunity. That is a good question. Another thing, a lot of people don't realize, you can come in and play with the equipment without insurance. If it doesn't leave the building, give us a call. You wanna see how an ARRI works, an ARRI camera works with some signature primes on it. If they're available, we'll bring them out and put them on a pedestal, and if a tech's available, they can help you, and or whatever. You want to play with a fizz and get to practice pulling focus. Just give us a call. Come on in and hang out in the rental house. The more you can hang out, the more you can get to know the other people in the industry, see what's going on, get to know us. We get to know you. We get to know that you're comfortable with the equipment because we see you practicing with it. Then, someone gives us a call, so-and-so available for a job. Well, they're right here. I know they've been practicing on the gearhead. I know they can use it. So you may get a job out of that.
Yeah, lately, actually, it's been increasing, so it's hard for me to say yes to everybody, but I will have people who might just walk in or call, or maybe they connected with some AC at an event and just ask about trying to learn more. So what I try to do is then, if there's a prep going on, usually like a commercial prep, something smaller, then just ask that AC if they wouldn't mind someone coming in to shadow them, and then connecting them so they could come in at least to learn a little bit, help label the cases, stuff like that. So it's a learning opportunity, because I know it's hard to learn all that stuff. They aren't out there, especially since there isn't formal apprenticeship programs, which would be amazing to have. So we sort of have to host these events and bring people in to be that training ground, because otherwise I don't know how else you're going to learn how to be a camera assistant or anything else that you're doing on set, and have them hire you and trust you to do that job if you don't have any experience at all. The other thing we do is kind of just partner with different community organizations and go to their events too. So I try to just be out there getting to know people, to kind of break down that barrier so they don't feel like so intimidated like they can't come in. I mean, for me, I'm on a gated studio lot, so you can't just walk in unless you're already on the lot. So there's a little bit of that hurdle as well. So usually it's people calling me up, and yeah, it's as long as we're not crazy busy, sure, come on in and we'll set up a camera for you. Any other questions? Yes. For us, very rare that's happening. Usually, really, if we're shipping something, then that's the only rental transaction. It's to a sub-rental to another vendor. I mean, occasionally it's something here and there. We have a few very specialty items, like the image shaker, which creates an effect of like an earthquake or something like that. That's something that only we have. So There will be clients, in markets that we're not in that will call us up and ask about renting that out. So there'll be TV shows that are getting their whole entire camera package from another rental house, and they're shooting in New York or something. We don't have an office in New York, and then they just rent that from us like every few weeks or so. So very little. I don't know what
Yeah,
it is
most
for
of
you
the
guys.
clients are in and prepping, and that's what we prefer and what we recommend, because it's our responsibility to prep the gear, but it's the client's responsibility to prep their own way, making sure everything is working. And this just happened last week. We had a client at Coachella, didn't want to prep because they wanted to get out of there fast, and they had the wrong filter because the assistant prep tech pulled a filter that was not the one they wanted, but they didn't check, and then they got to the desert, and they're like, this is not the filter I need, and then we're like, well, that's why we recommend prepping. So, yeah, the camera prep is essential. Same, we only ship direct for sub-rentals, essentially.
We do a lot more sub-rentals, and it's often to other rental houses, and quite often lenses.
Yeah.
And that's another thing we consider when we purchase. Is this gonna work as a sub rental? In fact, I'm looking at that 25 to 1,000 Fujinon.
Yeah.
So is that worth purchasing? Because our 50 to 1,000s rent out all the time, constantly. To other rental houses. But you got to rent the head.
Yeah, because it's big.
Yeah, with it. So that's going to be like a
Specialty.
It's going to be a massive shipping.
But that lens was
thing.
made because of a rental house owner, Gaston, I think not just him, but he shoots a lot of live concerts, and all the box lenses before mount, is the name of the mount for broadcast cameras, but now everyone is doing cinematic live concerts. And then he was so many times, why don't you guys do a box lens with PL mount? And then someone else said that, and there it is. So yeah, yesterday
it was because of him?
He's one of the he's one of the 5 people that have
I know,
the lens
yeah.
now, because it's kind of like he was a part of it. So what Collette was saying earlier, that they do really listen to us and to the customers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll
Yeah.
sub it from
Okay.
Go for it, Kat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a very strict application process, but once you do it once, you're good. Then we just need updated insurance and whatever. But yeah, we have terms and conditions we want you to sign. Want trade references to know that you will pay your bills, should there be an insurance claim or whatever, and then insurance, so as long as that is all legit, looks good, we're good. Because, one thing that we rely heavily on are the PERG emails that go out to every rental house when some gear is stolen or not returned when it should have been. And that's a resource that every rental house is looking at. And there might, sometimes it's, hey, this person was shady, this is their name, or this is what they said their name was, this is all their info. So if you get a call from this dude, you might not want to trust them. So it can be a pain sometimes, especially when we're trying to work with just small independent production that maybe they just want to rent one lens or something. We know it's tough, but that's why we say reach out early and we'll help you through the process. So as long as they get through that process, we haven't had issues, and I think because we're so strict about it. We've had gear stolen, but that's just because every rental house in Atlanta was broken into at least twice. But that's a different thing. But yeah, we're going to ask a lot of questions, but that's why, and then it's fine.
Is that the one that has all the stickers on it that say watch your fingers, and it shows people's fingers getting crushed?
Oh, in the image shaker?
Is the image shaker? We've rented that one from you. Yeah. It's pretty horrifying, warning stickers.
And I think go with your intuition too. If you think the client is weird, go with your intuition and do like a second, third, fourth check, or just say no.
Anything else? Well, thank you all for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Collette.
This is great. Thank you, Harry, for all the questions. We hope you guys enjoy the rest of the show, next day of it. And if you guys have any more questions, feel free to reach out. You can easily find us through our rental house websites and online. So thank you.